that you are all listening to. It can be more of a conversation. And then I also thought that it would be useful and fun to hear from us what in our lives led to this. And so maybe Stephen, you'd like to go first, and we're going to make this short, because then there's plenty to talk about regarding what it was like for us those first couple of years. Do you want to start on the?
So what was happening for you that led you to this?
Or what experiences in our lives drew us to a land-based community, as opposed to one that was in, an urban setting, which a group of us did do. They started a community in, Watertown, or I don't know where it was. Okay.
And Medford.
Oh, Medford, yeah, that's it.
So,
You want me to start?
sure.
So, when I was a kid, I went to a camp. No, when I was a kid, before I went to a camp, I played in the woods around our house, nonstop, with my best friend who lived just down the road. And and with my sister, we played. There was a little brook. We had sinking islands. We had named every rhododendron plant. We had made bridges, and then we climbed the apple trees that were in our backyard, and we each had sitting spots that were our personal spots, and you had to ask permission from me or my sister to sit in that spot. And then somehow that led to going to camp for 2 months in the summer. I was in ecstasy, swimming, and my best friend at camp, Molly Day, and I would sneak out of camp in the middle of the day, and we made a little shelter for ourselves, and we made friends with Chip and Dale, who were the little chipmunks that would come in, and because we would always have little snacks for them. And I just loved camp so much. It was about being outdoors. It was about music. It was about dance. It was about poetry. It was about writing. It was about community. And those are the big, big things in my life. And so when I started burning out as a teacher in Cambridge at the most wonderful school, I thought I would never burn out there, but somehow I felt myself burning out. And when that happened, I connected with Stephen and with Victoria, and we started dancing together. And then we started talking about starting a community and living together. And it was absolutely irresistible. So I went to my school and I said, could I take a year's leave of absence? And Mary Johnson, this was a Quaker school, said, no. And I said, okay, I quit. And I never looked back. I mean, I kind of looked back. I didn't sell it. I had a house in Somerville and I didn't sell it right away, but I rented it for a year, and then after that it was time to sell it and just be here. So that's my story.
And mine is similar but different. I spent the 10 years before I got here, mostly riding around the world on my bicycle. I'd gone to school after high school and didn't much like it. And so I decided this will be a different kind of education. I didn't actually think that. I thought I would just go away. And it turned out to be a different kind of education. And I lived on kibbutz in the north of Israel for 3 years. 6 months here, a year there, like that. And I lived with a community in Sydney, Australia, dance community. And then I came back here because my 6 siblings and my parents lived in Rhode Island, and I could not convince them to move to Australia. So I came back, and we were living and dancing in Boston, and I met Penny, and we started dancing every other week, I think.
Every week.
And then we called a meeting and talked about buying some land, and we did. And we moved here, and that was the beginning of trying to figure out what it means, A, to live with a group of people, and to live rurally. And I have a sense that you're all here sort of like walking around these woods, sort of with similar eyes that we had, walking around and discovering this land. And talking with Penny. Just so many moments. And we were here year round, and we were sort of stuck here. You guys could go home. We had to deal. And it was just regularly magical. My daughter was born on the day we signed the purchase and sale to buy this place. And we moved here 3 months later, and we baptized her in the stream up there. And yeah, I raised my two girls here. And for a while I had a partner who had 3 daughters, and we built that big house there for us and our 5 daughters. And
the dormitory he's referring to.
that big house. And you know, we just would walk or ski or slog through the snow and figure out what this land was. And I don't know if we know anything more than any of you know, but the discovery process, just going out, sometimes with eyes closed, sometimes in groups, sometimes by ourselves, and just looking and listening and
Getting lost. That was my strategy. I would go until I got lost. And then I would find my way back. And it was always such an adventure.
I think it was you who came back and said, there is a giant oak tree. You go over the bridge, over the stream.
Which we don't think the bridge is there anymore. But
What?
we're not sure. We don't think the bridge is there anymore, is it?
Not the same bridge.
Right, but there is another bridge?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another bridge over the street.
Yeah, so if you go up that path up there, and you cross, and then you go to the left.
Just a little bit past the bridge, you kind of
Before you
veer
come
off.
uphill, there's an oak tree that's probably this big around.
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3 of us cannot reach our arms around it. And I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but it's gotta be there, because I don't think it's
Has
tumbled
anybody
down.
here seen it? Do you know it?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I
It's
have it.
it's itself. It's
Yeah.
different from all of the other trees. No.
It's not that close to the trail, so you have to leave the trail to find it.
And it's just, yeah.
And it's this side of what we call Hemlock Hill. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I do. Good.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's still there. The woman whose grandfather bought this land in 1926 across the street, just at the top of the hill. Ralph Timberlake is his name. And she told us that when she was a child, and I think she's probably 10 years old, she's probably about your age. This hillside right here was clear, and they would sleigh ride in the winter down this hill. And, you know, it's a forest. And it's like that quickly.
And there was a stage in between, because when we got here, this field back here was all grown up in this giant grass, and the orchard, we had no idea it was even there. I mean, there were so many trees grown up there, we couldn't even identify it. And the stone barn foundation was covered in trash and covered in grown stuff, and so we didn't even know that was there. And I think somebody named Ed Cohen, who was one of our, we made friends in town. That was one of my jobs. I was the dump attendant, and I absolutely, put myself in the task of getting to know absolutely everybody, because I knew how to sweet talk people, and I wasn't sure about the rest of these guys. So I knew if I could kind of get my foot in the door, they might not shut us down so quick. Anyway, I'm off the track. So one of our friends was Ed Cohen, and he told me that there was somebody had taken an aerial shot of this land, and it was all wooded. So from Happy Timberlake's childhood in the 40s or whatever it was, to when we moved out in 86, it had really grown up. I mean, there weren't enormous trees here, but it had really grown up. And we set about actually liberating a lot of that stuff, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure if a real environmentalist would call it that. But we, okay, great. Yeah.
And how many of you moved out from Boston, Cambridge area? It was you two.
There were 9 of us.
9 of us bought the place. Michael and
Oh,
I
that's right. Okay.
never lived here.
Yep.
Susie and Tart moved out the second year.
And only lived here a year.
8, 7, 6. So 6 of us moved here.
And then we had 2 friends that joined us that first year,
John
James
and
and
James,
John.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the first night we were here, we were supposed to close on it at the lawyer's office in Northampton, and there was a snafu and we didn't close, but we came here anyway. And we slept here, and the first night sitting, right where the picnic table is, so the old house had no second floor. They'd been using the first floor, but the second floor was sort of like, attic, old attic. And right at sunset, out of the wall of the second floor, probably like 500 bats.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. So cool. And then we got to know those bats quite intimately because we
Renovated the second
We
floor.
renovated.
Oh my gosh.
We had to ask them to leave.
Yeah,
What did they
sad.
say?
What?
What did they say?
What did you say?
What did they say?
They did leave. Not all of them happily. Some of them stayed with us for a little while.
Yeah.
We would crawl out of the walls. I don't think any of them are left.
No.
They've all moved into the woods.
In which month you start being here? Which
What?
month of the year?
Which time of the year?
No,
Yeah.
month.
Month.
Yeah.
Well, I moved out with David Sharp in probably June. And then Stephen and Victoria came out after Kira was born. So that was, it was a couple of months after Kira was born. They gave Kira a little time to acclimate. So was it like July?
July, August.
Yeah.
So it was summer that we moved here. And that first winter, there was like 4 feet of snow everywhere.
Yep. And we were really, and we had a lot of friends still in the Boston area, and they all came out for Thanksgiving. I mean, literally, there were probably 40 people here. And everybody slept in what's now the kitchen, which was at that point kind of the living room. And, you know, just slept on the floor. And the snows came, and there was really no moving. I mean, they couldn't get out. And so they stayed, right? And actually all through that winter, it was really, we were sucked in. I've never been so, in a way, claustrophobic, but also it was really interesting. You really needed to get to know everybody that you were, and there was one time we were having a meeting. We had endless meetings. And we decided we just got to get out of here. And we had about 4 pair of skis. And so we went out that way, teaming up, you know, two people on 2 skis, you know, like holding each other. One person like this, the other person holding on.
Swimming through the snow. Swimming.
Yeah, that's right. It was really fun.
I never saw that. I think that's when we decided to build something. Yeah, I'm going to just briefly say the order of the buildings was, number 1, a shed, because we needed Victoria and Stephen to have a place to put their big furniture, because we couldn't really put it in the house because we needed to renovate the house. So, and then they also had the washing machine and the dryer and the stove. And when we couldn't close on the land, their truck was loaded with all that stuff. And so we came here, just unloaded. We were very thankful that none of the Bates family showed up to check that we were not trespassing, because we were definitely trespassing.
Oh my gosh.
I think we broke into the house and put all the stuff in here, all the appliances. Yeah. Anyway.
Anson Betts, who bought this place in 1926, invented the process of extracting aluminum from bauxite. And so he was a miner and an inventor. And there was, you know, the quarry was a mine, and mined magnesium, manganese? Yeah. Until about the Second World War, and then it was inefficient to do it. But he would just go out in the woods and stick dynamite in the ground, blow it up, and see what he found.
And people would be driving by and finding rocks. They'd tell us, you know, there are rocks flying through the air and trees that are, you know, uprooted.
And so through the woods, especially in this area, there's lots of just holes, sinkholes. You wonder what that is.
Yeah, that's
what they.
And all the tailings too, those little craggy rocks that are about this size. Those are what's called the tailings, or the leftover from the mining that they just left on top of it.
And his children inherited the land, and they mostly lived in North Carolina and didn't really care about it or use it. Their niece had the property across the street, just a building lot that she lived at. So that was their connection to the place, but mostly they didn't come here. And the local fire chief rented the house for a number of years, and then when we bought it, he moved and ended up building his own house, and we moved in and started learning. Enough.
So some of the places, the special places that we named, included, I'm going to call it David's Rock. That's named after David Sharp. You know David Sharp, right? Which is really like ledge. I mean, to me, it was like this cliff. You know, I'd never seen anything like it. It's not that big a deal. If you've been in New England for any kind of period of time, you know that there are, you know, cliffs like this all around.
But for me, it was just this incredible place. And it's back here on the other side of the bridge. And that trail goes past Hemlock Hill. And then there's a branch of it that goes to the right. And David's Rock is just below that. There's actually another trail. So if you go out past the bridge, there's another trail that kind of parallels it for a while on the right.
Yeah.
And that, if you follow that out, that will take you also to David's Rock. And there's also a spring. I can't believe, when I found this, I just couldn't believe it. I felt like this was magic. I don't remember exactly where, but it's back there. And I was walking around, and I saw this bubbling up, and this rivulet coming out, and a tin cup hanging by a handle right by the source of this little stream. And I thought, this has been used by somebody for a regular basis to get water right from the ground. And so it was one of those special places, and it's out there.
In cup too?
Hmm?
It's in cup there?
Well, is it not?
I never took the cup away. I left it there. It could be.
Is it marked?
It's not marked.
Why is there a spring here that's not marked?
If you follow the stream, I think you find yourself there.
Yeah, it comes out of the earth. Suddenly that the stream, you go to the right and follow it. I followed it once,
Yeah.
and it's just coming out. Yeah.
There's a big rock over it, or nearby it.
I'm not remembering all that much, but I know it's there. I know there's a stream and I know there's a spring there. So that's another spot. And another thing that's really cool is that this whole, it's really a giant, I guess, cliff in this direction, cliff. And David's Rock is actually in front of that. And then this other cliff that's much more massive. And that is a very great place if you like spring ephemerals. Those are the flowers that come in Dutchman's breeches and hepatica, and I can't.
Ramps?
There are not that many ramps there, but the ramps are on Deer Hill, on the face of Deer Hill. So along Route 9, if you want to just pull your car over and clamber up that hillside, there are tons of ramps there. Yeah, the spring ephemerals are on that warm cliff. They just love the sunlight in the spring.
So was dance always in mind when you created this place?
Yes,
Say that again.
with dance always in our
Yeah.
mind.
We were trying to figure out what to call ourselves, and somebody said Earthdance, and we all hated it. And we just couldn't find anything better.
It's actually very good. And
You're stuck with it. Sorry.
we were builders, like really. I mean, I never built a damn thing in my life, and I really don't have that much of a capacity to keep things straight or organized. And but we all became builders, all of us, like it or not. And there was a community house in Cummington before any of this was built that we would go and improvise in the evening.
Rented the space once a week.
Yeah. And I have to say, I was generally so tired by the time it was to go there. I was just like, oh God, do I really have to dance?
All the way to Cummington.
Yeah, all the way to Cummington. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wonder what it was like keeping up your dance practice as a group once your whole landscape changed from Boston area to here. Did you know, because you had an improvisational practice together, correct?
Yeah.
Did
So I can answer that.
Go ahead.
It was hard for the first year. But once we started making friends here, which was pretty soon because, what was it, Dance Friday or something? In Northampton, we went religiously to that. And then we made friends, and then we started a jam here on Wednesday nights, I think, and people came out. And when we had that influx of new people, and their enthusiasm for what we were doing, it really made it, sparked it alive for me.
Yeah.
And I guess I was more asking if you noticed any shift in your dancing.
Oh, yeah.
Once your landscape changed, and the improvisation, the compositions that you were all creating as a group on the dance floor.
Not so much.
No,
Cool.
we
Not
were
so
playing.
much.
We were still ourselves.
Yeah.
We were playing. We were being silly.
We were never dancers. We just never were. We were just people that liked to experiment and improvise and play. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really was it.
I think that's true.
Was the dancing that you were doing, was it mostly contact improv, or was it from the beginning not at all? And when did that?
There were some of us in the group who loved contact improv, who grew up doing it with his siblings. We were in the kitchen as we were building, just, we just couldn't help ourselves. And to get to call it dance, sure. Why not? It was play, it was touch, it was work, it was building.
And we all also loved the practice of authentic movement. And so I would say that it also informed our experience, our dance experience.
Reading some of the older pieces, I have one that I will share with you, something that Victoria wrote, I think a year after you were here, looking for community members. And there's a few, so it was interesting to see that there wasn't the mention of contact improv. And so that was kind of like interesting. It was like dance and play were the words. And then I was also the anarchistic.
Oh.
I was just curious about what that, like where that knowledge or idea came from and how that played out.
It's an interesting concept. To not have rules, to make up your own rules, it feels like we all do it all the time. We're all, on some level, anarchists. Even Trump, probably more than many, actually. we weren't trying to change the world from the top down, but more from the bottom up, one person at a time. And so anarchism just fit easily.
We had one member of the group who really had a hard time conforming to expectations about X, Y, or Z, that we would all do this, and then there would be a schedule for doing that, or anything that was kind of organized in that way was really hard for this person. So that person sabotaged it whenever we did it. So in other words, it was kind of useless to try to put the structure in here. It just didn't work. And it so didn't work that it didn't work for years after we left. Like, we left in 95, and anybody who came in here was still saddled with this reputation of wild anarchy. And I know a few people, Samantha Brunell I'm thinking of, tried to, and actually, it's because Samantha is masterful, she managed, but very few others, like Andy Gaines, he couldn't make that work. So there has been this vibe of anarchism that has been really difficult to expunge. You're telling us.
And I wonder what's coming off the landscape here that is creating what happened. Because you're talking about anarchy and chaos and no structure, and yet all you did really was build structure. Structures.
Right.
Like the foundation was laid. Stephen has his right there under your legs, so we just did it again. And wondering, like, what does a landscape inform in us without us knowing, or even thinking that it's changed anything? And that's just a question. And then I feel like this valley, like when I was choosing to move here, I was like, well, there's dancers there and there and there in Western Mass. And I feel like whatever you did from the ground up, like you changed the landscape of this valley in terms of creativity and artistry and like deep attention to embodied artistry. Like you changed the whole valley.
Well, it was also here before we got here.
That's right.
Which, we were drawn to it as
Yeah.
well. Nancy lived in Northampton.
Bonnie lived in Northampton.
Who?
Bonnie Bainbridge
Bonnie
Cohen.
Cohen. Yeah, so there was a lot of that energy here.
Sue Shell was here.
Because when we started looking for land, we had sort of like Pennsylvania, Virginia, Canada as our borders. And we found this perfect property in Alstead, New Hampshire. It was perfect in every way. It was affordable, it was beautiful, it was perfect. And we realized we want to be in Western Mass. It sort of pushed us to say, no, let's get rid of Pennsylvania, let's get rid of New Hampshire, Western Mass. And, very much because of the community here.
Sorry if you already spoke to this before I arrived, but I'm curious about earlier history of the quarry and other. So before the 1900s, like, was it a quarry who maybe was it only colonists who created a quarry, or indigenous people mining for any minerals in a smaller way before that?
What did you say?
So the quarry, what was it before Anson Betts was here? Was there any mining? Was there any, because, what's his name? Would know that.
My assumption was that he dug it.
Yeah, he dug the quarry, and there are two
The
quarries.
two quarries, the second quarry, just beyond that one. And then he dug them. He threw his dynamite in the ground and did it a few times in the same place, and drove trucks into that quarry, loaded rocks, and took it to wherever they processed, which was not here. And so I think that the quarries were not here previous to the 20s.
But there are gems here. There's rhodonite, which is a kind of a peachy red stone that became the state stone because Anson Betts contacted the governor and was some kind of friend of his or whatever and said, okay, this should be our state stone. So it is. And there are also garnets. You can find them, as you walk around. And I don't know what else there is.
You might know more about that than I do.
No, between Rick Cernak and Bruce Jessup, our neighbor, that they lead groups here, and Rick was just here the other day, and I was asking about these things rising up from the past and how I should deal with them. He said, well, those just break apart with a sledgehammer, but this one, I've got someone coming in 2 weeks, and I'll have them dig that out because I think there's something there. So I have no idea, but they look at these stones and they know there's value in whether it's garnets or I don't know what. I don't have any real connection other than knowing manganese was a commercial product. Rhodonite is, this is one of the only 2 places on the East Coast that it's really produced.
There's something that's called Coming Tonight.
Oh yeah,
I've seen it in museums, so it's Coming Tonight.
Okay. That's interesting, yeah. Other than that, I don't know. But we have been wondering as we've been doing things around the quarry, like, what was it like when they were here? They must have been pumping out all the time because, when we get the liquid, it fills up, and when we don't, it's down low. Daniel was suggesting, well, we should drain it out and clean it. But I was thinking, that'd be interesting to find what's down there.
There's a camera down there.
Or maybe we don't. Maybe we don't want to know what's down there too at the same time.
Yeah.
So, that's, I don't know anything more about it other than maybe 6 years ago, via one of the groups that comes here, we aerated, we put oxygen into the quarry, and for like a month it stunk around here because it's so putrid down there, but then the water cleared after 2 months, and you could actually see the bottom of the quarry.
Wow.
And, so then during COVID it conked out and we never got it going again, but CJ has started a process of reintroducing oxygen. So next spring we should be doing that, and it adds a lot to that. That's kind of the status of the quarry. And then this year we just, 1 month ago, replaced the roof of the sauna. It was, finally we really looked up there. I never was up there the whole time I was here. And people were saying, it's leaking in the sauna.
Yeah, I can't believe
So we went up there and we had a garden, a tree garden. We had an aviary. No, what's it called? Arboretum. When you grow trees?
Yeah.
Whatever, we had trees up there which were going, when we pulled them out, they just moved. So that's an update there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoy.
35 years, it was supposed to last 15.
There you go. Yeah, so we put on a metal roof, of course. Yeah. And it's in process.
I'm curious if anybody has anything that you've seen or discovered during your time here. How long have you been here? Just a day or 2?
Well, some people live here. A lot of
Right.
people live here.
Right. Either things you've seen, experiences you've had, otherworldly experiences, anything.
I have something.
Vodka.
So, when the first building project we did was renovate the attic where the bats were, so that we could have a place to sleep. And so David Sharp and I were up there in a thunderstorm. There are powerful thunderstorms around here that we think are caused by the quarry. We think that energy, attracts lightning. And the windows were open, and it was summer, and there was this enormous clap of thunder, and a bolt of lightning went right through the center of the room and out the window, from a window in the other end of the house. And David and I looked at each other like, what was that? Do you remember that? And
So that's my story. The quarry, lightning. It's really powerful. It's really, did you put in a lightning?
I've never noticed.
We did put in lightning rods.
After that?
Yeah, we hadn't done it.
And is the attic, are you referring to this building here? Or?
Well, it's hard to imagine, but the original building was just this little cape with this, whatever it was, 1830 or something, with this little, roof on it, and the roof was, it was, you could stand up in the middle of it, but you had to, crouch in the corners. And so it was that we were renovating. We called them the Hobbit holes. And they were perfect for me. I didn't mind. A little small for Stephen.
I think they're still there. Are they still there? Those balconies in those upstairs bedrooms?
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
the lofts?
Those lofts.
Yeah, they're still there, but we don't use them for sleeping. They're used for storage,
Yeah.
but they're still there.
Yeah, you can't. The rules are that they not be slept
Yeah, and all the material for that renovation was taken out of a house next to Roxbury. It starts with a D.
Dedham?
No, north of Roxbury. Boston. Dorchester.
Dorchester.
Milton was working on a job in
Right.
Dorchester,
Okay.
and they had, all of the floors and the wood of the house that they were throwing away.
That's right. I remember that.
Oh, we brought it out here.
Yep.
Renovated the second floor.
Yep.
Except the extra stuff that we had to throw away.
Yeah.
So they're referring to, now we call it embodiment room, office and staff lounge. They're all what was the attic then. And now they're these rooms. So there's no actual attic in in those buildings, in any of the buildings except for, you created Studio 3 above there.
Above the kitchen.
Above the kitchen, it was just a closed space, and during the renovation work, we had to get in there, so there's a hatch now, so it is an attic, in that, there's actually insulation stored up there and whatnot. But that's the only part of this whole farmhouse area that has an above that you don't see. The rest, you can see everything to the ceiling, to the roof.
I've got a question. I'll share first that I've had really powerful energetic experiences here. In fact, the first time I was here, 2019, laying down on that land, just a big field there, I felt this huge upsurge of energy. It was very significant in my life. And I'm just curious, I guess I'm curious about a lot of things, but just when I see you speak about the quarry and electricity, the energy that you speak with, and I wonder if you could say more about how you experience the land, if there's a personality or a character that you've experienced over time, and how you maybe have danced with it, been in relationship with it, if you could speak any more about that specifically.
So when we bought the land, they didn't know there were quarries here, or the person that we were dealing with.
The real estate agent.
The real estate agent, sweet man, Mr. August, or whatever his name was. Anyway, the family was not here, and so he was just he was going to sell it for them. And it was winter when we first looked, and it was frozen, and it was leaves and snow, and we walked across it, and we said, I wonder what this is, a swamp, a puddle. We had no idea. And then in the spring, we discovered it was a quarry. And that was amazing.
And then there was a second quarry, and we were just like, oh, wow.
And we spent a long time looking for third, fourth, and fifth. And so what came to us was very little. like they didn't know if it was 50 acres or 90 acres. It turned out to be almost 200 acres with land across the street and land here, and now land that's Bruce owned, and Nine Mountain, and all of these places. And so they didn't give us any. So it was a process of discovery for us. And I think each of the 9 of us did it, sort of individually. I mean, we did things together, but like below the Hemlock Hill and maybe a little bit to that direction, which is whatever direction that is, there's a whole stand of beech trees. And at that time, in the mid-'80s, there was beech disease, and so many of them were diseased. They had, they were rotting, and you could see that they were diseased trees. And I haven't been there in many, many years, and some of them did not have it. Some of them escaped, and it was the hair thrift, some insect that was spreading. And but it was a very open space, and I would always found that place on my walks. I presume that each one of us had our own special places that we sort of gravitated to. And I'm not sure why. Just it was a place for magic or calmness in the storm.
Yeah, that Stone Barn Foundation, that discovering that, and the fact that it just kept, as we dragged away the old pieces of metal and the tubs of this and that and the old, appliances and everything, it just went on and on and on. It went back and it went out to the side, and it was so beautiful. And I guess, just feeling really, just falling in love with all of the different beautiful areas, the quartz on the land. That was just so exciting. And then if you go in this direction toward the Streeter, that's the name of the landowners that were in the sort of, they were down there, but their land was over here. And when I first got to a ledge and looked down over those trees, these were enormous trunks. I think they were mostly hemlocks. The lower branches were gone to the sky. And I just thought, I was breathless. I just couldn't believe these grandfather trees just as far as I could see. And I thought, oh God, does this belong to us? I thought that. But I kind of figured it didn't. Because I just somehow, and I found out later that it was and anyway, I don't even know where there was a little road that went in down below as you come off of Packard Road. And I haven't even seen it. I don't even know if it's still there. But, stuff like that. But we were also very busy. We didn't come here and have a workshop where we got to just, hang out and sit around. We were working. I will never forget that pretty much early on, maybe the first week we were here, waking up at about 6 in the morning, and Stephen is on top of the roof with a circular saw, and he's going right through the roof with a circular saw, straddling the ridge with a circular saw to put in a vent. I mean,
needed a vent.
Yeah.
For those lofts? Because every loft has a vent.
Yeah.
Which is closed off now.
Yeah.
So the Packard farm, who was here before Anson Betts, had a big barn. So it was the old house, and then it was a woodshed, and then maybe a sugar shack, and then a big barn. And the house just went from where the house is
All
back
back.
out to there.
Because that's the way they all did it.
And,
And
yeah.
the animals would be in the back, and then there'd be other animals, maybe like sheep or something, but the big animals would be back in the barn, and all hooked up so that it came right off the farmhouse.
And I don't think we consciously are recreating it, but I don't think we can help ourselves. And there's still one or two more buildings to put on. When you get to it. Whoever does.
That's good.
When was the umbrella barn created?
What?
When was the umbrella barn created?
90 something.
Yeah,
In the 90s.
probably.
Is that close
Yeah,
enough?
late 90s probably.
Late 90s?
Yeah, we moved out in 95. So you took over in 95.
And there was no umbrella barn.
No.
It was already
No,
here. It was here in 98. Also,
It was
somewhere
here in
between
98,
95.
probably 97 or 6.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, we designed, so it was going to be attached to that building. And yeah, it was going to be about this size, but attached, so that we could have it, and it was going to have a big opening between the two, so it could be all one space. And then I think it was the day before we started building. What's his name? Builder in Boston area.
I don't know.
Oh, wait. He came out and said, you know, you should move that back a little bit and have two separate spaces. And it seemed like such a good idea that we did it. The guy came the next day to dig, and we said, why don't you dig over there? And so he dug the foundation. I think, you know, and I'm old and senile, but I think there's a big piece of rhodonite right about under where you are. Right there. Big. And we just covered it up. Because we were building a dance farm. But there is possibly a way to get under there. If anybody I think it's covered with plastic so that the moisture doesn't come up into the floor.
Not yet, actually.
What?
We're intending to do that, but right now it's still open.
You
And
have
it's
a
still a
few
chance.
more minutes. If you want to fill up your pockets with rhodonite, state gem of Massachusetts.
Do you know anything about, so you mentioned the Packard farm?
Mhm.
Do you, when's the timeline? You may have owned it. Do you know anything about before then?
I'm not sure. Are you aware that Massachusetts was about 80 to 90% clear land in the mid-1800s? And now it's 90% wooded land.
Western Mass.
What?
Western Mass or
I
all
think if you
Massachusetts?
count the whole state, it went from clear farmland to forest in,
Wow.
150 years. And so I think the Packards came sometime in the 1800s, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, they were original family. They were first family. And there are Packards in Goshen, too. I think it's a cousin. But, yeah.
Yeah, we never had time for that. But another
But you
opportunity after
yeah.
you gather as much rhodonite as you can, finding out about the Packards would be really interesting.
It's true.
The other, a couple of days ago, I was walking with Rick, who is the mineral club, one of the mineral club heads, just over by the dorm, and there's this big 8x8 piece of wood standing up saying walking path only. And we were walking, and he goes, "Oh, this looks like some rhodonite." And he just said it might still be there. He set it up on top and said, maybe somebody will find it. But there's really around a lot of it. And he said, yeah, look, rubbed it off and said, yeah, if somebody polishes this, they're going to see all the rhodonite in it. So it is quite available if you have the eye for it.
oxidizes black.
Yeah, right.
So any the part that is on the outside, if you find a particularly black rock, there's a chance that that's Earthdance.
Mm.
Any last questions or stories? I want to respect the drive home and back, awaiting Penny at least.
Do you have any blessings or wishes or for the next generation stewarding this place?
Yeah.
Guidance?
I mean, I love that you still can use it. It makes me very happy. Just that people are still learning and growing and making mistakes and fumbling, and just like us.
Yeah, I ditto. It makes me very, very happy. This was a pivotal place for me. It completely changed the course of my life in a very positive way. So I guess my blessings would be carry on as long as you can and as authentically and true to yourself as you can.
Take ownership of it and then release
There
it.
you go. Yeah. Oof.
That must have been hard.
Mm.
That must have been hard.
Yeah. And it kind of happened several times because there was moving out and dissolving the community, but then there was the Phoenix. And then there was
The next.
the
I
next.
think you've been here maybe almost as long as I was here.
Mm.
I was here for about 22 years.
Not there.
Not there yet?
No, I came in 2009.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like me. Catching up.
I don't know that I'll surpass that.
But the vision, the fight over vision for Earthdance, that's kind of what I was talking about in terms of letting go. That has been a very intense thing for in the recent history. And I am so grateful that those who have come are here and doing hard work and really trying to work together to keep a vision alive of expression, connected to nature, supported by this ground here, in community. I mean, it's very important. It's very important and very exciting. And so, thank you.
Can I share something which I became aware of while I've been here? I don't recall exactly when, but you're talking about energetics of the place. So there was a person who gave a lecture. I can't remember. It's a local, relative Western Mass local person. You might know the name. But he gave a lecture about Western Mass in PowerPoints. I can't remember how he talked about it. But powerful places. And he's someone who's written books on like the, what do you call,
Ley lines?
stuff, right? And he actually labeled this specifically as a point. There's 2 points which right by here, including Earthdance, which he wrote about, and it's a natural ley line. And part of what he said, and given a description of energy, he associated with salamanders. And he's also an artist and a sculptor, and he was trying to sell his work to Nine Mountain. He said specifically he wanted to do a sculpture of a salamander between the 2 places here as a representative of the energy that's here. And the only thing I know, and you probably would clarify this better than I, is every spring there's a migration of salamanders down this whole hillside, and they can be quite large.
Spotted, the yellow spotted salamander?
Yeah, they're a larger one that comes and crosses the road here. But I thought that was interesting that he identified, and I think it's in a book somewhere, but that it's just really a powerful place. And the line is going like towards Kripalu and Tanglewood, and it's something going that way. And there's a lot of very interesting, powerful places in this Western Mass area, and we are included in that. Something to check out.
Can we conclude by naming the indigenous tribes that attended this land before? Just to have those sounds that came out of the landscape in this experience.
Well, we know, I'm sure there is a lot unknown. It is Nipmuc, Pecumtuck, and the Mohicans, the peoples of the continuously flowing waters. That's what I know off the top of my head.
Not Mohawk, not this part. So maybe they know about the spring.
You know about the crystal ley line. I'm excited to look for this oak tree. Thank you for planting.
Can you tell us can you give us directions one more time?
You cross the stream, you head toward Hemlock Hill.
You go
Which is pretty much at the
halfway up, just before Hemlock Hill, take a left.
It's not on the way up.
Yes.
It's more on that same plane as the stream. And it's off the trail, the old road.
Yes.
It's not near that. It's downhill or something, whatever that would be.
And it's in a ring of oaks that are quite large, but it's by far the largest, if it's still there. And it should be,
Yeah.
because it's protected.
I mean, it would be there on the some level if, it might, the limbs might have fallen down, but the trunk will certainly be there.
Yeah, unless it was hit by lightning.
But
there are a lot of other trees around it that sort of would protect it from, big winds and things. So, and you can't see it until you're there.
Yeah.
I remember, finding it a few times and then looking for it and not finding it. And another time finding it. So, for a very thing, it likes to
That's a challenge.
Fall asleep to find it.
Yeah, I've noticed in the forest here there are these like eddies kind of energy that I can get kind of swirled into. Like I think I'm going in one direction, especially when I go off trail, and then I kind of get and can stay somewhere and get turned around quite beautifully to get lost here.
We used to do a lot of walks where somebody would have their eyes closed
Yeah.
and somebody accompanied them with their eyes open to make sure nothing terrible happened. And lots of wonderful discoveries on those walks. With your eyes closed.
I loved living in that cabin.
Penny's cabin.
Yeah, it was Susan, right, that you're living there. And
No, I'm not.
No, Faith.
Faith.
Faith, she's not in the room.
oh, okay, all right. Oh, that's right. Anyway, darn. So you can tell her this, that trying to get out to the cabin at night without a flashlight, very fun. It's so sensual. It's just about the feet, feeling your way, sensing the tree right in front of you, finding your way around. I think that's the thing also, just when you are living close to the earth and experiencing the weather right up close, and the sky and the smells and all that you see, all the different leaves and all the tree trunks. It's so sensual. It is a beautiful thing. It is so different than the city.
And following a path in pitch blackness is much easier with your eyes closed. You feel when you're going off.
Yeah, that's.
Where with your eyes open, you imagine seeing where the path is going. But you close your eyes and you can feel it in a way that your eyes trick you.